Hello, my name is Andrea Winn, and I am speaking to you today as a successful justice activist who exposed the leader of a global Buddhist cult in just 1 year and showed that he was a sexual predator and successfully exposed him. So I am speaking to you today from that experience, and I'm speaking specifically about the only way to unseat Trump. So, for those that are not familiar with my work, I would just briefly like to share with you what I was able to accomplish with the people that were working with me in 2018. We completed a professionally and sensitively conducted forensic investigation into the facts of sexual and spiritual abuse within the Shambhala Buddhist community, which at that time was probably the most influential Tibetan Buddhist community in the world. I facilitated 3 global online discussion forums for those affected by the daunting psychological and spiritual crisis that the community went through that year. My work was in many well-known publications, including on the front page of the New York Times, as well as in Newsweek and The Guardian and many other publications. I was interviewed live on NPR. I was interviewed by CBC Radio, CBC TV, and Global TV here in Canada. And the scope of the work that I invoked that year, I had 37 volunteers that signed up to work with me, and I raised $32,000 to support the work that we did that year. So that gives you a brief overview of what was achieved under my leadership and the outcomes of the work from that year. First of all, our forensic investigation led soon after to 2 criminal investigations opening in Colorado and Vermont, and a 3rd related investigation opened in Boulder, Colorado. And since 2018, more investigations have opened as a result of the work that we did in 2018, including a class action lawsuit. The work that we did caused the guru to step down and to leave the community, which you can imagine how huge that is. Can you imagine the Pope stepping down and leaving his post as the head of the Catholic Church? That could maybe give you some idea. This work opened the doorway for other women and men to have the courage to expose leaders that were acting in similar ways in their own spiritual communities. So it provided this hope. What we did showed that it is possible to unseat these very, very, very powerful men, and in some cases, women. So that gives you an idea of where I'm speaking from. It will show you the kind of mettle that I have developed within myself in order to do something like what I did in 2018. So, how many people here have heard the story of the 2 wolves? Raise your hands. It's a beautiful story, and I love that it also apparently originates from the United States territory. And so I thought to just give a little more color to this presentation that I would actually play the telling of the story. So I am just going to share the computer sound on my computer, and I will play you this brief story. And I ask you to listen to it with new ears and to realize that this is going to be an important key to successfully unseating Trump.
This is the story of the 2 wolves. An old Cherokee grandfather said to his grandson, who came to him with anger at a friend who had done him an injustice, "Let me tell you a story," said the grandfather. I too at times have felt a great hate for those who have taken so much, with no sorrow for what they do. But hate wears you down and does not hurt your enemy. It is like taking poison and wishing your enemy would die. I have struggled with these feelings many times, grandson, he continued. It is as if there are two wolves inside me. One is good and does no harm. He lives in harmony with all around him and does not take offense when no offense was intended. He will only fight when it is right to do so, and in the right way. But the other wolf, he is full of anger. The littlest thing will set him into a fit of temper. He fights everyone, all the time, for no reason. He cannot think because his anger and hate are so great. It is helpless anger, for his anger will change nothing. Sometimes it is hard to live with these two wolves inside me, for both of them try to dominate my spirit. The young boy looked intently into his grandfather's eyes and asked, "Which one wins, grandfather?" The old grandfather smiled and quietly said, "The one I choose to feed."
Right. I hope that you enjoyed hearing that fairly well-known tale, and I hope that you were able to hear it in a reflective space where you were able to see that this has everything to do with what is happening in the United States and in other places in the world at this time. And I have talked with I've had over 50 conversations with Americans since November the 6th. And I know that people are struggling with these two wolves and not quite knowing how to deal with things. What is the right way to deal with things? And sometimes getting sucked into feeling a lot of anger. And I think it's pretty easy to see how that can happen. I have certainly the day that Trump was inaugurated, he announced these first can't remember what they're called, the directives. I was pretty angry to see what it was that he was legislating his first day in office. So it's only human to have triggers, but we also need to remember the price that we pay if we go deeply into experiences of anger and hatred. So in one of the videos that I posted in, not sure if it was late November or in December, it was about the story of the Cree Aboriginal people in northern Quebec and their story of standing up to the Quebec government and Hydro-Quebec, who were coming in and just wanting to take more of their land so that they could produce more power and make money. And so it's a very powerful story. It's documented in an NFB film called Power. And their story is, I feel it's very helpful for understanding how to actually create change when there's insurmountable abusive power, men in power who are trying to completely overwhelm you and overcome you. And two of the key takeaways from that film that I would like to bring forward is, first of all, their spiritual grounding within their traditions before they went into action. So that's something that I have been teaching and supporting in this community since November the 6th. We have to be very grounded in order to be able to make effective change in the world. But the second thing is how smart they were in what they did, because they looked at where was the Hydro-Quebec and the Quebec government, where were they going to be selling the power? And one of their biggest consumers was going to be New York. So the Cree people, they made canoes then, and they took their canoes and in a traditional and elaborate show of their power down through the river system, and they arrived into New York, and they had arranged for the press to be there when they arrived, and they went straight to meet with politicians who had influence in New York, and they shared their story about what was happening to their people, and how their land was being taken over by the Quebec government and Hydro-Quebec. And they actually convinced the New York, like they spoke to the politicians, they spoke to the people on, TV, and they convinced New York to not purchase the power. And that was what was needed in order to shift this abuse of power that was happening in Quebec. So what I find interesting is that they looked at what was going to be that food source for Quebec, the government, and for Hydro-Quebec. It was making money from New York, and they eliminated that food source. They starved it. And so I would like to, just remind you about the story that I just played about the two wolves. Who the wolf that you feed is the one that is going to win. And so they starved. They starved this source of income for that was the fuel for what Hydro-Quebec and the Quebec government were doing. What these Cree people did was very powerful, very powerful. So I feel that in a time like this, it's important for us to sometimes not play it completely safe. And I've chosen in this video to move out of my comfort zone and to share a story from my experience with the Shambhala community that is not something that I would normally be sharing broadly, and especially not on a YouTube video. But I feel that what we are going through right now warrants my stepping out of my comfort zone and sharing this story with you. So, as I already said, I did very powerful justice activism that caused a massive shift in the Shambhala Buddhist community. Again, a global, very influential community. And so I have had a lot of healing that I needed to do. I was brought up in the community, and so I had to do a lot of healing before I did the activism. And I went through quite a lot during the activism in terms of my own awakening about just how deep rooted the problem had gone, as well as being attacked by people who didn't want me to bring what I was bringing to light into the light. So I had a lot to recover from. And I guess it was probably a year and a half ago, I went and I had a healing session with a very powerful healer. It was on Zoom. For those of you who know him, it was with Steve Nobel in the UK. And I had this healing session with him, and I am a pretty visual person. And so he asked me to visualize the energy around the Shambhala Buddhist community. And when I visualized it, I saw this beautiful, like sparkly white lotus. Like it was like magical white lotus, which, in many respects resonates with the higher frequency, the more beautiful parts of the community. And what I saw was that the roots that were going down from this lotus were going down into the mouths of these three pretty grotesque black demons. And I apologize if this brings a bad feeling for you with me even sharing this story, but I promise you it's going to come to a better place. So, immediately after I saw this vision of these demons, and I said it to Steve, he immediately disappeared from the Zoom room. So it was his Zoom room, and I was the only one there. And so I didn't really know what to do, so I just waited. And he came back into the Zoom room, and he said that that had never happened to him before, and that these demons, they did not want to be exposed, and that they did not want him to. He said, we need to eliminate their ability to impact you. And he said that the work that I had done, it had significantly impacted their food source, because the really, really, the sexual violence, the predation that was happening in the Shambhala Buddhist community, it was exposed. And it wasn't just the leader that was a sexual predator. There were a lot of leaders beneath him that were as well. So my work with Buddhist Project Sunshine and the beautiful people that worked with me, it exposed this and it stopped. It really stopped this source of food for these demons. And so they they wanted to do everything that they could to diminish my ability to bring my light to the world. So Steve was very firm, and he did his healing work to sever their ability to impact me, which is good. The reason why I decided to share this story, which I certainly feel quite vulnerable. I mean, it's not easy to share stories that are outside of, sort of the normal everyday stuff. But I felt that it was important because I truly believe that there are demons like that that are beneath what Trump and oligarchs are doing. I really believe that. And, I'm just going to put forward this idea, like, what if Trump is just a puppet for these demons? And what if the oligarchs are just puppets for these demons? What do we see that Trump is so good at? Getting people really stirred up and upset. He's really good at that. And it's that kind of emotion that feeds these kinds of demons. So every time that he does something that is so deeply upsetting to people and raises all of this anger in the country, that energy is doing many things. I'm suggesting that it is feeding these possible demons that are being fed by that kind of negative energy. It's draining. Everybody that goes into a fit of anger, how do you feel afterwards? You feel drained. You often feel quite drained. So, in the fear, these kinds of demons, they really, really love people in fear. How many of you are paralyzed by fear, either, occasionally or more than occasionally right now? I'm talking to people who are probably listening to the news too much, and they are really afraid. And this is the kind of energy that these demons feed off of. They grow strong. And as well, it weakens us. It removes our ability to be light and free and to see possibilities and to see how we can make change. It disempowers us when we're either, deep into fear or deep into anger. So, certainly, as somebody who values having a lot of clarity around things, I also want to talk about the enlightened aspect of anger, which in Tibetan Buddhism is referred to as mirror-like wisdom. If we don't get sucked into that kind of lower energy of anger, But if we let the anger be this catalyst for seeing things very clearly, then that anger can be put to good use. I am somebody who has worked with that a lot. And one of my special skills is being very clear. I'm able to sense energies and be very clear about what's happening in a relatively short time compared to other people. I would also like to talk about the positive side of fear as well. And again, this is actually something that I learned from growing up in the Shambhala community, because warriorship and fearlessness are, key things that we learned in the Shambhala community. The other side of feeling fear is having the opportunity to develop fearlessness. So if you're afraid and you also are willing to take those steps through the fear, take the steps to look into whatever it is you're afraid of. Like, are you afraid of your financial situation? But if you take those steps to, look, what are your account balances? What are you spending money on? If you take that step of stepping into the fear and facing the fear, then you're able to develop fearlessness, which is an obvious strength and a strength that we need at this time. So there is a positive aspect to anger. There is a positive aspect to fear. Fear provides that opportunity to step through it and to develop fearlessness. So, I would like to ask you to be mindful of your emotions, be mindful of your emotional state. If you need to take a day or two off from any news, if you need to limit your news intake to 15 minutes, do what you need to do so that you can take care of your energetic state and really cultivate having a state of well-being, of peace, of love. We want to be able to channel good energies into creating a positive vision for our future. It's important for us to focus on love and harmony and honesty, respect, embracing diversity. Look around you. See what examples there are of these good things and feed that by bringing your attention to it. That's how you can feed the good wolf, is by bringing your attention to these things. If your mind is spinning into negative places, gently bring it back and remember some of the good things, like, maybe what your son or your daughter did yesterday. Start to feed the good wolf by noticing and appreciating the good things that are happening around you. And in that way, you will develop a more positive energy within yourself. And from there, you're going to be in a much better place to know you're going to see the opportunities for action. You're going to see how to respond to different things. You're just going to be in a much more resilient place to be able to meet the challenges that are happening. And I hope that that makes sense. I really want to encourage you to let all of your actions come from that place of love, of harmony, of developing community bonds. Create love in your families and in your communities and in your country through doing actions that are coming from that space of love. So please pay attention to which wolf you are feeding. Starve the bad wolf. Just don't give it any more food. If you do find yourself giving it food, then as soon as you can, withdraw the food and bring your attention back to developing that solid basis of love within yourself. Let's starve the demons. I truly believe that that is the most powerful and really the only effective way to unseat Trump and to make sure that this never happens again. So I hope that you will receive this sharing that I have shared through this video. I hope that it will light up your heart with some insight and some ideas for how to move forward yourself. I welcome you leaving comments below the video. I welcome you joining me for my upcoming live event that I'll be offering later this month. I will be announcing about that next week. We are currently having a community survey where people within the community are just sharing a bit about what they're going through. That survey will be up through this Sunday. I will be reviewing the results of that survey. And from what you tell me through the survey, that's going to determine what the topic will be for the live Zoom event that will be freely offered later this month. And I hope that you will be able to join me. So I am wishing peace upon your spirit today. And I am wishing for you to be able to receive whatever will be of most help for you in this time from what I've shared in this video. Okay, blessings.